This visit to the hospital bed of the former Attorney General John Ashcroft in that wiretap renewal incident. Explain exactly what happened in 2004.
What happened was we had this surveillance program. We had this eavesdropping program, warrantless eavesdropping program. The Department of Justice had certified its legality, an office called the Office of Legal Counsel. And they had a guy come in, a new guy named Jack Goldsmith, conservative credentials, handpicked by Gonzales, liked by the president. And this was a guy who not only had conservative credentials, but believed in the law. So he ordered a legal analysis done of the program, and he came to the conclusion, as did other people in the Department of Justice and throughout government, that the program as it was being carried out at the time was of dubious legality and probably illegal. And so he wrote this legal opinion that it was illegal. He brought that to the attention of James Comey, the Deputy Attorney General. Comey then talked to then Attorney General Ashcroft. And there was a consensus by the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General throughout the Department of Justice that they couldn't certify the program as legal anymore, and it would have to discontinue. And if it continued, though, you'd have the president perhaps breaking the law. You'd have an extra-constitutional, illegal program. So the Justice Department refused to certify it. It was at that point that Gonzales met with on a single day, March 10th, 2004, I believe, Gonzales and Dick Cheney, Vice President Cheney, they met with the Gang of Eight, these 8 congressional leaders, and they said, we have this problem. The Department of Justice isn't going to certify this program as legal. We think it's so important to the country. We want it to continue. And the Gang of Eight and the 8 congressional leaders refused to go along. They said that they did nothing to encourage them. But after that meeting, Gonzales creates this false set of notes saying the Gang of Eight wants us to continue on with this program. And so they're still trying to, they have like one day to get the program reauthorized. And so after they have these phony notes, later that evening, Gonzales and Andrew Card, the president's chief of staff at the time, they go and visit John Ashcroft, the then Attorney General, in the hospital. John Ashcroft is clinging to life, deathly ill. He's been in intensive care. He had his gallbladder removed in emergency surgery. He's heavily medicated, sedated, in pain, not competent to sign any legal papers or to think of anything, so complex. And so Gonzales, the Deputy Attorney General, James Comey, who's acting Attorney General, refuses to reauthorize the program or say it's legal. So Card and Gonzales go to the Attorney General's hospital room in an attempt to get him to sign the certification. And so that's how we end up with the dramatic scene in the hospital that night.
We just interviewed Barton Gellman of the Washington Post, who wrote the book Angler, about the Cheney vice presidency, how the government almost fell soon after that, when finally the president called in Comey and said, why am I dealing with this at the last minute? And Comey had already written his resignation letter and said that Mueller was going to resign as well that day over this.
Well, to take a couple steps back, before that, what happened in the hospital room was the Attorney General's wife, Mrs. Ashcroft, informed her chief of staff what was going on. And then he called everybody, Comey, Mueller, and so they all raced to the hospital. They careened down Pennsylvania Avenue with their sirens on. They raced up the steps, and James Comey, this very straight arrow Deputy Attorney General, got to the hospital room about 5 minutes before Gonzales and Card. And Mueller, the FBI director, to give you an idea of this drama, told the security detail, Ashcroft security detail, under no circumstances were Andrew Card and Alberto Gonzales to be alone with John Ashcroft, that James Comey was to be with them at all times because he didn't trust them to be alone with Ashcroft. And so in the hospital room, Ashcroft and Card come in, make their case. Gonzales and Card come in and make their case, and Ashcroft, who's deathly ill, somehow pulls himself up just for a moment before he collapses and says, "I'm not Attorney General. There's the Attorney General. James Comey is the acting Attorney General. Deal with him." And so they leave not getting Ashcroft's signature. And so what they do the next day is they decide to go ahead with the program without the Attorney General's signature. And what they did is they had a computer-generated copy of this document. They simply removed the place where the Attorney General should sign and put a line for Alberto Gonzales to sign. And so Gonzales and the President signed this authorization to continue with this program, despite the fact that their own Justice Department said if they did so, they'd be doing something illegal. And then it was the following day that Comey and Mueller kind of argued with them some more, and Bush backed off and withdrew the authorization, or agreed to work with it until it got, within a legal framework.
And so now, coming full circle, where does that leave Alberto Gonzales, and what is he doing today, and what do you think he should be doing?
I think he's spending a lot of time with lawyers, and because he has a lot of stuff that he has this U.S. attorney investigation he has to face. But I think the greater legal jeopardy is lying under oath about the surveillance program, and this new thing, creating these fictitious notes. Because when Gonzales and Bush signed the authorization, it was these fictitious, made-up notes that was one of the bases for the President to sign it. So that's a very serious issue. And so there's so many legal threats to this particular former Attorney General.
And these are criminal?
Criminal, yeah. I mean, the appointment today of the prosecutor in Connecticut brings the investigation to a criminal basis. The investigation that the Inspector General didn't have that prosecutorial power or authority. So now Gonzales is facing a criminal investigation on the U.S. attorney thing, and then of a greater liability, greater threat to him legally is about the surveillance program.
Investigative journalist Murray Waas wrote for Atlantic.com. And this piece of news, Alberto Gonzales' former chief of staff, Ted Olyott, has just been hired as general counsel for the social networking site Facebook. Gonzales is still struggling to find a job with a private law firm. And that does it for our show. Democracy Now! Produced by Mike Burke, Shrufo Dokadus, Aaron Mate, Angelique Kamet, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar, Hani Massoud, Robbie Karen. Our website is democracynow.org. Mike DeFilippo, Miguel Noguera, and Peter Curry's our engineers. Special thanks also to Becca Staley, Hugh Grant, Samantha Chambly, Jay Salnur, John Randolph, Jose Miranda, Travis Collins, Vesta Godars. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.